stormy and a wind. So what can we expect? Right, guys, the reality of the matter is, and what this video is in relation to, is that if Ireland remains supporting Ukraine, it's possible it could result in the following. Okay, and if you can share this with your fellow Irish men and women, all the better. Ireland could face rolling blackouts and lockdowns for up to 6 months if our sub-sea gas infrastructure is attacked or damaged, secret government emergency plans has revealed. Aware of confidential details of an emergency planning exercise held last December between major state agencies and what's governing Ireland, which are top-ranked civil servants, if you want to know the truth. Fears over the vulnerability of Ireland's underwater pipes and cables to Russian sabotage have grown substantially. In the past week alone, several vessels under international sanction entered the Irish exclusive economic zone. Ireland gets 80% of its energy needs through the subsea gas interconnects, and 68% of that goes to the generation of electricity. Damage to the interconnecting pipeline from Scotland via the Isle of Man could have a catastrophic impact on Ireland's economy and the provision of essential services. That's if Ireland remains supporting Ukraine. It will be subject to this, and Russia could be a major threat to Ireland. Backup generators for industries, including pharma and food production, and hospitals, prisons, universities and airports would require huge amounts of diesel, as would power stations. In recent years and up to now, Russia has deployed a fleet of spy vessels in Irish waters. There have been situations where ships have turned off their transponders and tried to conceal their locations as they loitered over undersea cables. A mini submarine has even been launched from such a vessel. Excuse me. An incident in November 2024, just weeks before the emergency planning exercise on December the 3rd. The Russian naval vessel Yantar loitered directly above the gas interconnector that is controlled by Gasworks Ireland. Gas Networks Ireland. The government later carried out an inspection of the pipeline to ensure it had not been tampered with. The vessel has been involved in multiple subsea cable information gathering incidents, and it is believed to have returned to Irish waters in recent days. On the back of the November 2024 incident, and following high-level briefings from energy security experts, the government agreed to develop a state-led floating storage and regasification unit, a large vessel that can store liquefied natural gas and distribute it to the national grid. However, an industry source said that in the event of damage to the underwater gas pipelines, these reserves would only plug the gap for a very short period. The high-level emergency planning exercise, named Exercise Call, took place on December the 31st last year in the National Emergency Coordination Centre and was attended by more than 80 representatives from all government departments and agencies. It involved a run-through of responses at different times following the failure of the pipeline. These included the reaction in immediate aftermath, 9 weeks later, and then 6 months later, shortly before the gas supply would be predicted to return. The contingency measures discussed included immediate no-notice blackouts. These would be initiated by ESB networks, directed by EirGrid and termed controlled demand reduction. They would continue on a rota basis. Dublin residents, for example, would be advised their electricity would be off between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. on Wednesday, followed by Galway and Mayo on Thursday. Where wind energy could bridge the gap in electric power generation, times of low or no wind could require drastic measures, including lockdowns and blackouts. Lads and lassies, this is what Ireland is subjected to if Ireland remains supporting Ukraine. Lockdowns would be needed in the most extreme situations to reduce fuel consumption of people travelling and redirect it to energy production. Gas curtailment would see different gas customers placed on an order of priority lists, with essential services protected from blackouts in most circumstances. These would include healthcare, emergency services, security, education and public administration. Other industries regarded as non-essential, but which would be protected from curtailment, include retail, manufacturing and construction. Security and defence analyst who has served with the Irish Defence Forces and the UN and EU missions abroad said the threat from Russia is very, very real. It's not a case of are they likely to do anything. The fact is they have done the groundwork in enabling themselves to do it. They have mapped out our subsea infrastructure. The threat is real. Ireland's authorities are wrestling with this. The interconnectors, the internet cables and any other element of undersea infrastructure and other critical infrastructure need protecting, particularly the energy interconnectors. It would be catastrophic if they were damaged. Two key things are energy and water. If you were to interrupt the flow of them in Ireland, you would create a situation on the ground that would be akin to a battlefield or missile strike without the actual missile strike. I'll even go further than asking you to share this with your fellow Irish men and women. Send this video to your politicians, or so-called politicians. A simple thing like damaging the interconnectors is a classic example of hybrid warfare in that scenario. Would you have a smoking gun? Could you attribute that action directly to the Russian state? They could inflict serious blows without having to take accountability or responsibility, and could do so without triggering Article 5, as we are not a NATO state, NATO nation. It is a new form of warfare where they are sort of skirting around, testing the boundaries of alliances. Ireland is an easy mark in some ways. This is why they pay us attention. The Russians are curious about Ireland. They certainly don't consider us as neutral. But your folks with all the nationalities now living in Ireland is no longer neutral. And who have you to blame for that? Your top-ranked civil servants that are governing Ireland, along with their spokespeople, which are your politicians. Ireland don't need to join NATO, but what we need to do is knit together our own bespoke cooperations and alliances. One of the things the Russians are looking to see is who will respond and how they will respond. Ireland needs to normalise the fact that we rely on the RAF for air policing and security, and we will need to rely on our relationship with the UK and the Royal Navy for undersea security and other institutions and agencies. And that is perfectly as it should be as a friendly nation with common interests. A spokesperson for the Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment outlined the context of exercise call. The National Risk Assessment 2023, prepared by the Minister for Defence in conjunction with the Office of Emergency Planning, specifically highlighted an elevated risk to energy infrastructure and singled out an attack on gas interconnectors between Ireland and the UK as a worst-case scenario. The Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment has responsibility for this risk and must ensure the mitigations are in place to reduce risk and protect the system against its occurrence. So guys, we are in bother if Ireland keeps supporting the Ukraine. The Russians obviously don't like it, but is Ireland capable of handling Russia? Ye know the answer to that as well as I do. The exercise tested the whole of government response to a prolonged gas outage in Ireland as a result of the two gas interconnectors being compromised. Since exercise call, the government has progressed the establishment of a strategic emergency gas reserve, which will act as a key mitigant against the risk of a prolonged gas outage. The Departments of Defence and Climate, Energy and the Environment are funding a pilot programme at the National Maritime College of Ireland relating to maritime security research. Which was like, guys, if we get a serious change, sudden change in weather conditions in Ireland, are we prepared to do anything about it? It's the same thing with now that's happening with Russia. Russia is capable of doing anything with Ireland practically overnight if they wanted to. So if we remain supporting Ukraine, it's possible we could be in bother, guys. The spokesperson said this will assess risks and threats to underwater infrastructure in Irish and EU waters, advance maritime cyber resilience, offshore assets, enhance maritime domain awareness through surveillance, support energy and infrastructure security against hybrid threats, and foster national and international dialogue through expert conferences and policy. But the reality is, guys, 63% is currently supplied. But if the Russians did decide to sabotage the underwater structure, we are in serious shit, guys. No doubt about it. People in hospitals, people in nursing homes, people on life support, they're all in bother if the Russians get sick and tired of Ireland supporting Ukraine. This all came out at Ireland could face rolling blackouts and lockdowns for up to 6 months if our subsea gas infrastructure is attacked or damaged. Secret government emergency plans has revealed. So I said it would bring that to your attention, to have everyone alert to what's possible to happen in Ireland if Ireland remains supporting and assisting Ukraine to the extent that they have been. Who's going to suffer in the end if what's attempting to govern Ireland and politicians keep doing what they have been doing over the past few years? It's us Irish citizens in our own country that is definitely going to suffer as a result. So if you can, share the video with your fellow Irish men and women, and she might send it to a few politicians around the country and wake them up a bit. Because I don't know what's gone on in their heads the past couple of years, but folks are acting far removed from normal. Okay guys, enjoy the rest of your day.